Hello, hello. Welcome to day 1240 of Connecting the Thoughts. Code for today is the questions we ask make all the difference. The questions we ask make all the difference is the conversation for today. More on this on the other side of the show reel. And when I talk about questions, am I talking about the questions we ask to others? Am I talking about the questions we ask to ourselves? Or which questions am I talking about? Let's find out on the other side of the show reel. Tag a friend who needs to receive this question. To tag a friend who needs to receive this message. It might be a friend who asks you a lot of questions, or it might be a friend who is constantly questioning things. Tag a friend. Welcome back to the conversation. Today we are talking about questions because I believe the questions we ask make all the difference. And what do I mean by this? How many times does it happen that you have a situation and you ask yourself some questions? And these questions could be about why is this happening to me? Or why does this always happen to me? Why don't things go right for me? We always, often, okay, let me just not generalize. We often ask questions that lead us to find more reasons and more evidence of why this is happening to us. On the contrary, what if you were to ask, what is the learning in this for me? On the contrary, what if you were to ask, how can I make things better? It's always about the questions you're asking, right? So the question I asked you some time back was maybe you could tag a friend who needs to receive this message, right? And instead of saying that, what if I said things differently? Would you feel driven to tag a friend? Would you feel driven to subscribe? I don't know. But the thing is to propose that question so that you would consider the answer. The thing is, we're constantly asking the wrong questions and we are wondering why we end up having the wrong answers to us. So, what are some questions that you could ask yourself that would be of values? Questions that would help you move forward instead of questions that will keep pulling you and sucking you inside that downward spiral, that whirlpool of chaos and confusion and panic. Thank you for the like. Please let me know who's watching. So, yes, instead of asking questions that take you downward in that spiral, bring your energy levels and vibration down, ask uplifting questions. Ask yourself, what could be the learning for me in this situation? Ask yourself, who can support me in this situation? Ask yourself, when have I faced this situation or similar to this in the past, and what strategies did I use to get myself out of here? Again, these are questions that we can propose when the situation is negative. Now, what about when things are good? What are some questions that we sometimes unconsciously ask when things are going great for us? I hope I don't get jinxed. Oh, I hope nobody jinxes this for me. You know, things like that, perhaps, or not. Let me know if it is a yes for you. If this is how you might have been in a situation in the past, give it a yes. And also, when we're asking questions to others, right? So far we've looked at the questions we ask ourselves, but what about those questions that we ask others? Sometimes when you are in a situation with another person, you need to be mindful of what kind of questions you can ask a person and what kind of questions you need to hold back or park aside for another time. Sometimes people are in overwhelmed, sometimes people are in the middle of a lot of things, they're already managing way too many things, and they do not need your questions. So a good idea in that time would be to just hold your space, to be silent, observe, be mindful, and then perhaps ask at a later point. So think about it. It is all about the questions we ask, because it's only when you ask the questions that you get your answers. And yes, so be very, very mindful about how you ask your questions, about who you ask your questions, and when you ask those questions. It's super important. Everything plays a vital role in the kind of answers you receive. Let me know if there's ever been a time where you asked a question out of line and then bit your tongue and said, if only I had waited for a bit. Sometimes we tend to jump the gun, in especially with the near and dear ones. We jump and ask the question that we probably should have waited for them to come back to us, or we rush into things and then we realize, oh, did I just hurt my own self by being impatient. Sometimes being patient is important, and sometimes pushing pushing the other person is important. And this happens very often in coaching. You just have to go with your gut feel in a conversation and understand that, yes, this client at this point just needs to be pushed and asked this question, because maybe this is the question that is going to help them get to that point of breakthrough. So, as I said, it's always about the questions. The questions we ask make all the difference. Make sure you're asking the right questions. Stay with those questions. If you haven't received your answer, stay with those questions. A lot of times we ask a question and then we disappear. So when the universe comes back to you with the answer, it doesn't know where you've gone. It does, I mean, like, you've moved on, you've gone into your next project, and then the answer is there. So stay with it. When you ask someone a question, something as simple as when you ask somebody, how are you feeling today? Right? And if it's a face-to-face conversation or on a Zoom call or whatever, however you're having your conversation, if you ask somebody, how are you, then be patient to listen, like truly listen. Did they just brush past the question and move on because maybe they weren't feeling also great? Was that I am fine really I am fine, or was it superficial? Look a little closely. Maybe in that moment, you're the only person who asked that person that question all day. Maybe they do want to share with you how they're feeling. But if you're in a rush to move to the next, you might have just lost the opportunity to touch someone's heart. Do think about it. And if this has resonated with you, please write in comments saying, I am mindful. Be mindful, people. Be mindful of the lives you touch. Be mindful of the conversations you have. And be mindful of the questions you ask to yourself and to others. Thank you so much for joining me. And again, if you haven't subscribed already, do subscribe to the channel. And until tomorrow, keep smiling, keep shining, stay safe, and thank you for connecting the thoughts with me. Thank you so, so much. Thanks.